Welcome to episode 15 of the podcast. You may not agree with us,
But
I'm Lowery.
and I'm Eric Thomas.
And we welcome you to this podcast. Eric, it's hard to believe this is episode 15. We're getting close to Christmas time, and it's a great time of year, winding down the high school football season, the college season, and on the back end of the NFL season.
Yeah, Maris, it might be cold outside, but things are heating up in the sporting world. In high school football, it's getting down to the nitty gritty in the playoffs, and this is moving time for the NFL. It's time to really, December football is where it's at. And in college, everything is really about to happen. Maybe for your Irish, the luck of the Irish, they may come through.
We're going to talk about all this, but before we do, we got to let you know that the podcast is brought to you by Modley's Plumbing and Heating. You never know when you need a plumber, till you need a plumber, or till you need your heat fixed. Modley's will take care of you. 304-253-HELP. Also by Massey Power Sports, and got to show their Carolina Panthers some love. They're big supporters of the Panthers. Where's that Panther growl that we heard from before? I think the Panther is still here with us somewhere. I hear it somewhere, that Panther growl. And we appreciate Massey Power Sports. And we also have to add a very special additional sponsor, and that is Window World of Beckley. And now's the time to call up Window World as you want to make those summer or spring and summer improvements to your house. You call up Window World. They'll take excellent care of you. And I think we have a third member of the podcast. I'm not sure if your dog Tuck Eric is on the screen or not.
Hey, he's not, but we're not ready for him yet. He's the prop for the barking
right, he's
dog.
the barking dog.
So we'll bring him in later on in the show.
That's right. Well, as we talked about, we're going to get into three different things like we always do. We're going to talk high school sports, we're going to talk college, and the National Football League. And Eric, we'll start with high school. And finally, after all the stuff that went on prior to the playoffs, we're now down to the semifinal round. This normally would have been the championship round, so we're just a week later. So we'll start in 4A, and you have Huntington going to Martinsburg and Hurricane going to Spring Mills.
And the only surprise right there, I think, in the 4A is Hurricane crashed the party a little bit, and they've been road warriors. Won a close one against GW. We had a chance to see GW the last game of the season against Beckley, and they took Hurricane to the limits, and they rebounded. Hurricane did, and now they're one win away from going to the state championship.
And of course, Huntington and Martinsburg, this is a rematch from the second week of the regular season, which Martinsburg gave Huntington their only loss. Here's a chance for Huntington maybe to redeem that loss, Eric. And maybe, Martinsburg has always been the heavy favorite since day one. But, I think now coming down to the stretch, Martinsburg, if they can beat Huntington and then whoever they face in the championship game, obviously they got two difficult games if Martinsburg can still, pull it off.
Yeah, and I think early on, we were doing a game, of course, that first game of the season, and the Martinsburg-Huntington game was a little close in that first half, and I think some things transpired. I can't even talk right now, but transpired in the second half, and Martinsburg was able to pull away. But I think these last Final Four teams, they all pose different matchups. Spring Mills is built on defense, and that Hurricane team was out 17-0 against Martinsburg early on in that contest. So it's a test of two different wheels in that game.
And it's one thing about it, no question, that when you get this far, anybody can win these next 2 weeks.
Yeah, anything can happen. The ball can bounce. I think weather may play a part in this. As cold as it's been, teams react differently in weather, and we'll see whoever's probably able to run the ball, manage the clock, will win those contests.
And I think you're right, Eric, because not just how cold it's going to be, the wind could be a big factor this weekend as well.
Yeah, you have to dial it in, and I think Martinsburg, they're real multiple, but I know Hurricane, they like to spread it out. Their quarterback is real dynamic, and it's going to be good contests, both games.
As we look into Class AAA, Herbert Hoover, a magical year. They're undefeated. Princeton, undefeated. Of course, a big blow for Princeton. They will not have Markel Lowe. He got hurt in the Parkersburg South game, out for the season, so they haven't had him for what they hope to be a championship run, but a very difficult matchup with Hoover at Princeton.
Yeah, and that's a tough road tilt for Herbert Hoover, but if any team's built for that, I think, Herbert Hoover, they'll travel. They play pretty good defense, well coached. But even without Markel Lowe, I think I would give the edge at home to a Princeton Tigers team that can, they're not just a one-man show. And I think Jennings, the Penn State commit, will step up as he did in the previous game and really ramp it up on offense.
And Mosser, a good, excellent wide receiver for Princeton.
It doesn't
as
get
well.
any better than Mosser and Chance Barker, their quarterback. They're a good football team.
And the other half of the semifinal bracket is round 2 between Bridgeport and Fairmont. Now, they played earlier in the year, and Bridgeport had a beatdown on Fairmont at Fairmont. The game is at Fairmont again. I'm not so sure home field is going to make a difference, but something you said earlier, like I said, Bridgeport loves to run because of the weather this weekend. That might play a big hand for Bridgeport.
And I think Bridgeport has been on a mission. Nothing to take Fairmont from Fairmont. Nothing to take away from that team. But ever since Bridgeport lost to Princeton last year.
73 to 70 last year.
I think they got on that bus and they went on the way back to Bridgeport saying, we want another shot, at probably Princeton. But I don't think they're looking ahead and overlooking Fairmont. But I like Bridgeport in that game.
I agree with you. I think they've been on a mission because when they got back on that bus, can you imagine if you were a coach or if you had played in that game, you're saying, do you realize we just scored 70 points, and I think they scored 40-odd points in the second half and still lost the game?
Yeah, I mean, it was just whoever had the ball last, and Princeton probably was fortunate enough, to get out of that with the victory. And if, like you said, if you would have woke up that morning and said you're going to score 70, I think it was like 72. I think they might have scored something like that.
It was 73 to 70 was the final score. They scored 45 points in the second half.
I mean, and lose the game. So I think they've been on a mission ever since that contest.
Of course, that's the upper half of the 4A, the 3A. We'll dive into the AA and single A. But first, Eric, we have to do what?
You have to like, share, and subscribe at Warden Broadcast Network on YouTube.
Also, the podcast is brought to you by Modley's Plumbing and Heating. You can dial them up at 304-253-HELP. Massey Power Sports, they got 0% financing on those side-by-sides, and they love the Carolina Panthers. We have to show the Panthers get a little bit of love. There's the Panthers Hall of Honor. I know they like that. A shout-out to Paul and Matt Massey. They are big Panther fans. We appreciate their support. And also, Window World of Beckley. They'll take excellent care of you. You want to make plans to spruce up your house or your whatever you want to do when it comes to windows, Window World of Beckley. And now, Eric, as we dive into Class AA, you have Frankfort at home against Williamstown in one of the two matchups in AA.
And what I like about this matchup is Williamstown is one of those teams affected by the reclassification. I think they've moved up. They were single A, but one thing that they're a good football team. It's going to be a tough road test going to Frankfort, who's played great defense all year. But I still have to give the edge, I think, to Frankfort at home.
The other semifinal in Class AA, the local team that you and I have had a chance to cover over the years on video productions, is the Independence Patriots on the road at Roane County. And the year that Independence won the state championship 2 years ago, their toughest playoff game on the way to the state title game was Roane. They were down 8-6 at halftime. The game you and I did in a second round game against Roane before they came back and beat them in the second half.
Matter of fact, I remember the play that put them over the top. It was a pass from Phelan to Judah Price, who ended up catching a TD pass and breaking that game open. But I think Roane County, I had a chance to read an article on them last week. They said that was the biggest win in school history. I guess it's the furthest they've ever made it. And now if they were able to pull off this victory against Independence, that would be a big feather in the cap in their program, because I guess Independence is kind of a nemesis. But I like Independence to travel. I'm not being a homer. I like Independence and Coach Lilly to go on the road and get the victory.
Well, I was getting ready to ask you. You must have read my mind, because I'm saying, if any, what do you think that the experience that Independence has had? Now, some of these current players may not have been and haven't been a part of that earlier run where they were runner-up champion and made the playoffs last year, because they've got some young kids in there.
Yeah, they do.
But I think their coaching staff, as you mentioned, Coach Lilly, I think Independence will go on the road and win this game.
Yeah, but the coaching staff is there. But there's still some key components. I mean, you have Silas Nelson, and I think they'll give it to him 40 times if they have to. And that young line for Independence is really stepping up and paving the way. And I think it's going to be a cold night. It's going to be, run the football. Roane County has a good running attack as well. But I just like the Independence to really get the victory.
And Brock Green in his freshman year, he's had a record-setting year for the Patriots.
Yeah, but that is all predicated on that run.
Right.
You can't really if you load the box, which people are going to try to do, it's going to leave those outside receivers open, and Brock Green has been able to complete big plays down the field.
Now in Class Single A, and I'll have to be honest, Eric, I couldn't tell you about any one of these four teams because we just haven't had an opportunity to cover them. But Tug Valley, and their field is not turf. And I saw a picture in the Charleston Gazette today of Tug Valley's field. Cameron, I couldn't even tell you where Cameron's at. So I'm just telling you, Cameron's got to go to Tug Valley, and that could be a real mess. That could really definitely, who can control the running game in the trenches? It could snow, it could be cold, and that is really about winning the war up front.
Well, give the edge to the home team
Yes.
right there in the mud and the muck. Only thing I can tell you about Cameron, didn't you do a basketball game where the young lady?
I tell you, I did. I did in the state tournament. You're right. They're from way up north.
Yes.
This is probably a 4.5 hour trip for Cameron.
Yes, but didn't she break the rebound record?
Yes.
She had like 40.
Yes,
rebounds.
she had some rebounds and points. Yes, and in fact, they had an incredible win by getting a steal and a girl making a shot, a 3-point shot at the buzzer in women's basketball. You're right, Cameron.
Yep. So
yes.
I do remember that.
Yes, and then you have the Wahama White Falcons, one of the best nicknames, right? Wahama taking on Tucker County.
Yeah, and the nice uniforms. Their uniforms kind of look like Bowling Green, the Falcons.
Yeah,
they really do.
Yeah.
So yeah, that will be a good contest, and I'd like to see who comes out, but I lean for Tug Valley. I think Tug Valley's the number 1 seed, correct?
They are.
Number 1 seed. This might be Tug Valley's year.
So we'll see how it all plays out. Of course, the championships, I'm not sure if they're calling it the Elite Eight. That's what we can call it. It's just going to run a week later. And after being in Wheeling for like 25 years, it's moved back to the capital city of Charleston.
Yeah, and that's going to be a nice environment. They've really done a lot of work to Charleston, to Laley Field, the University of Charleston Field, and it's going to be exciting to have it back down in the southern part of the state.
So there'll be 2 championship games on Friday the 13th, one at noon, one at 7. Then Saturday the 14th, one at noon, one at 7. That'll close the book on the 2024 high school season.
And it's
flown by, hasn't it?
It's flown by, even with the court case.
Yeah, even with the court case. And Eric, I was thinking about this the other day, just when we look back. And you and I did our first broadcast for Video Productions, Polk and Liberty, down at Liberty there at the end of August. And I'm like, it's like we blinked our eye, and here we are like 2 weeks away from Christmas.
And I tell you what's going to want, the Elite Eight going to want that weather that we had that first day. Remember how hot it was in the press box when we did the Polk and Liberty game, and now frigid temperatures next Friday.
All right, and in this podcast, we have to do what?
Like, share, and subscribe at Warden Broadcast Network, WBN, on YouTube.
And of course, like always, this podcast is brought to you by Modley's Plumbing and Heating. You can dial up Modley's at 304-253-HELP. By Massey Power Sports. They are big fans of the Carolina Panthers. And boy, they had their heart broke last week, Carolina. They should have beaten Tampa. But they were up with 30 seconds left in the game. They couldn't get it done. I had a nice discussion with Matt Massey over at Massey Power Sports. And he's like, that was real growing pains. But to the fine fans from Massey's who support us and also support the Panthers, here it is. And like I said, they got great deals on those side-by-sides. And also, Window World of Beckley, Leanna Burdett and her staff do a great job. Well, now, Eric, we're going to switch to college football. And before we talk about the playoffs, we have to talk about the firing of Neil Brown, the head coach at West Virginia. And this is not really to put you on the spot, but I know in previous podcasts you were not in favor of West Virginia firing Neil Brown. Now that you've had time to reflect about it,
yes,
think about it, do you agree or disagree? West Virginia did the right thing or they didn't do the right thing?
Well, I think for the culture, I actually do. You know what I was letting get in the way? Neil Brown's a class act. Let's get that out of the way first and foremost. And I really think he was for the kids and for the state. But it's all about wins and losses. And I don't think he was dealt a fair hand with the scheduling, which was made with the previous administration and stuff. But could have had a couple more wins if you didn't have Pitt and Virginia Tech, Penn State back-to-back years. I mean, what other school even in the Big 12? No other school played as many Power 4 class teams as West Virginia did, and that's not making an excuse. But to answer your question, after the Texas Tech game and a few blue cans,
Pepsi,
I came to the conclusion that it was time for him to go. It was not fun to watch. I mean, when you're down 35-3 at halftime, I mean, it's time. I don't know if he lost the team, but he had lost the touch. And I think it's time for a change. And I'm actually excited to see who we bring in.
Yeah, his career record was 2 games over 500, 37-35. But I think I know I did. I told you earlier in the season. I think when they lost the Pitt game, I think that changed the directory of the way their season went. I think if they'd have won that game, I think they would have. I don't think they would have won the Big 12, but I think they would have contended for the Big 12.
Well, I think they would have split the game at home, either Iowa State or Kansas State.
And that was part of it too, because they lost 4 home games this year.
And that's one thing you can't have. And that's a tough venue. I go to a lot of games. My family and I, our friends, we go to a lot of games, and that's usually a tough place to play. And they had 2 night games, and usually their record, WVU's record at night,
It's really good.
Is really, really good. It's tough place. Those fans get a little fuel in them, and they're loud, and it just didn't happen. And I wish Neil Brown would not be out of a job for long, though.
Well, here's another thing that you hear all kinds of things, and you have to go through, I guess, sift through to what is credible and what isn't. So I try to listen to the sources that I know have their hand on the pulse. And there are multiple names that have been out here, but I have no idea. People asked me today about 2 names, about Rich Rodriguez, and I can let you comment on that, and also about Jimbo Fisher. And I have no inside information, no sources to that. So maybe you can elaborate to that.
I'm going to elaborate because I listen to Tony Caridi and Hoppy Kercheval. And Hoppy Kercheval is real close to the board of directors. So Hoppy is not a gambler, but he said, I'm going to use gambling terms. And he said, I just need to, he did a poll and with WVU fans, and it was 57% to 43 that they didn't want Rich Rod.
Right.
And so he said if he had to lay a number on Rich Rod versus the field, Rich Rod would be 5-1 odds to get the job, which is pretty good odds. But he said Jimbo Fisher would be 1,000-1 that he would not be the coach. But he would take the field, and he said he didn't say names, but he said there are great names out there, but he wouldn't foresee Rich Rod coming back or Jimbo Fisher being at the helm.
I'm going to say this, and since we can go back and we can see whether what I'm saying is right or wrong or crazy. I have no inside information. My gut feeling is that Rich Rodriguez and Jimbo Fisher have 0% chance. Zero. Let me say that again. One more time. 0% chance that either one of those will be the next head football coach at WVU.
Definitely, and I'm with you there. And I think it's, you want to go a new direction. And I think Jimbo, with his age, he's pretty close to in between our age.
Yeah,
and
he's
50.
He's 59.
Okay,
that's what he is. He's 59. In fact, I looked this up.
And I think he's from the state. And here's my thing. I think you need some new life, some new blood.
Well, here's the one thing that I believe in. I've always said this. They don't have to be from West Virginia. You can hire somebody that don't even know where West Virginia is on the map. You don't even know anything about West Virginia. You want to hire the best available candidate. That's why I think, and I don't know Ren Baker, the athletic director, but I think and what I've heard him say is right. You want to have a national search, and I'm sure in his ways of coming through being at West Virginia, he's worked with different coaches like Coach Odom at UNLV. Not to say that he'll be the guy, but I'm sure he's come through the ranks to where he's got this contact, that contact, but you want to hire the best available guy, whether they have West Virginia ties or not. And Eric, now with the portal the way it is, look what it's done for the West Virginia basketball team. Their entire team is from the portal. Played somewhere else last year, and they're off to a much better success than if you have to build the old-fashioned way.
Well, the thing is, since he's come here, he had a tough decision after Huggins made the correct hire. I mean, you look back, the women's basketball coach, as soon as he got here, the correct hire.
Right.
Soccer team's playing good. Of course, they've had the same soccer coach, but the baseball team, I think he did the correct hire. So he's had to hire 3 major sports hires right now, and he's knocked it out the park.
And one of the things I think will happen, because we're upon championship week and the final playoff rankings will be released on Sunday as we record this on Thursday, that you have to wait and see who wins these championship games if there's a particular coach, because I'm hearing the coach of Tulane's name come up.
Yeah,
I'm hearing even the head coach of Army's name come up, which they play each other on Friday in their championship game. And there might be an assistant coach, I think they said, at Penn State.
Yeah.
Penn State's playing
the
Oregon.
Offensive coordinator.
So there's multiple coaches on these teams that are playing this championship week, and I think you have to wait and see who's playing in what bowl game here or there before West Virginia can really make a decision.
I think by midweek next week.
Oh, that's what I'm saying.
Yep.
One other thing, and then we'll get into Marshall. But so what you take, West Virginia's already the only bowl that I'm aware of that's already official.
Yes.
West Virginia's going to play Memphis. In fact, they were even talking about maybe the coach in Memphis. His hat might even be in the his name might be in the hat of maybe being a possible candidate for the West Virginia.
Yeah, I had a chance to research. This is the first meeting ever between Memphis and WVU. Memphis coming in at number 25 and
10-2. Yeah,
10-2, and I think this is a good opportunity for the young men. And what I like, all the WVU players are sticking together. So there'll probably be fully healthy, and I look for West Virginia to come out with the win in the bowl
And
game.
of course, the thing is, because when they bring in a new coach, they may not keep any of the staff. So for this current staff that's going to practice them and get them ready to play the bowl game, there could be some, but more than likely nobody on this current staff will probably be on next year's staff.
Yeah, and the thing you like about it is that shows you that the Neil Brown hired, the right kind of character coaches to stick it out, not thinking that they're thinking about the young men on the team and not themselves.
All right, now we'll switch gears to the Marshall Thundering Herd. The Herd are in their conference championship game, and after the way they blew that game earlier in the year to Georgia State, they haven't lost since. I think it's 6 straight wins to get them in this position to win the conference championship, and I think it's an amazing job by Coach Huff. But what I understand is he does not have a contract, and I would thought that if Marshall wanted him, they would already have re-signed him.
Yeah, and that's one thing it's bewildered me because he wanted an extension. They didn't give him one, and now he's the hottest. He's one of the hottest coaches out there. I think there's a Southern Mississippi. He's been linked to Southern Mississippi,
and he has, and they're in the same league. And Marshall's been way better than Southern Miss to me. And I know it's all about the money and the finance, but I think that would be a step below Marshall if he go to Southern Miss.
And I think he's in. I've been a Neil Brown fan, but I also been in Huff's corner.
Right.
And I think he's been disrespected. I think by Marshall University, and I think they're making a mistake. He's been to 4 straight bowl games. I mean, he's winning. He has a chance to win the conference.
Right.
Was it Friday night?
Yeah. So it's Saturday night.
Saturday night.
Right. They have a chance to win the conference.
I mean, what more can you do? And as bad as that loss was, remember, I was kind of down on them after they gave the
game away to Georgia State. Right.
You're talking about a gutsy win on the road at James Madison. I stayed up. It was amazing.
Yeah, I watched it in overtime. It was amazing.
It was amazing. Yeah. They played their hearts out after going down. I think they were down 17-0.
17-0 at one time, yes. This podcast being brought to you by Modley's Plumbing and Heating. You can dial them up 304-253-HELP. Also by Massey Power Sports. They have 0% financing on those side-by-sides. Got to give some love to the Carolina Panthers. There was that growl at the Panthers Hall of Honor, as the Panthers should have beaten Tampa Bay this past weekend, but they lose in overtime. And also, last but certainly not least, Winterworld of Beckley. Leanna Burnett, her staff does a great job. Get a hold of Winterworld and Beckley. All right, Eric, so now it's time to take a look at the college football playoff. And we'll look at this. Alabama's going to be in. They're already in.
Yes.
They got 3 losses, and it looks like they are definitely locked in. According to the chairman of the college football committee, there's no other data points, so they're already in the field. So there's no way they're going to get knocked out of the field.
Yeah, and the thing I saw him say they were 6-1, I guess, against top 25 caliber teams.
Well, I guess there's a lot of way to look at it. I'm sure you and I, if we wanted to sit down and say, make a case for Alabama to be in it, we both could. And if somebody said, make a case for Alabama not to be in it, I think we both could.
I'll tell you what, they're one loss, though. That Oklahoma game.
That's what I'm saying. To me,
I thought they were toast.
They lost to Tennessee, who lost to Arkansas. Maybe that's not fair to go back and look at it like that. But here's the thing. I'm with you. I think 2 losses, they were on solid ground, but Oklahoma did not have a normal Oklahoma year. No. In fact, I saw their quarterbacks transferring out. I think they fired their offense and defensive coordinator at Oklahoma. I think they had some changes there, and Oklahoma creamed them 24-3.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can't figure it out. And all I know is the Miami fans, I'm a Canes fan, you can't gag it like they did at the end of the year. But they made a case for themselves, too. They said, well, we lost to 2 teams by less than a touchdown, and you're going to penalize, us for, we can only play who we play. But I'm telling you what could happen Saturday. Clemson might throw a wrench in it. If they beat SMU, will Alabama be knocked out?
No, SMU will be knocked out. And here's why I say that. Because the Alabama brand in the eyeballs to the TV is much bigger for Alabama than SMU. And I know that shouldn't matter, because I think Alabama, if that would happen, I think SMU should get in. With only 2 losses, I think they should, but I don't think it'll be. As a matter of fact, I think that will help Boise State. Boise State, and I think even the Big 12 champion. The Big 12 is kind of getting dissed a little bit.
They are.
Because I think the Big 12 champion, if Clemson wins, Clemson's going to be the 12th seed.
Yeah, and that'll help the Big 12 champion.
And the Big 12 is going to be, it will probably be the 4th seed, and Boise State will probably go to the 3rd seed. Because the winner of Oregon and if Penn State wins, they're going to jump to number 1. I think they'll leapfrog Texas.
Penn State beats Oregon. They're definitely the number 1 seed.
Of course, here's the thing too.
And that'll bump Oregon down to 5.
And that'll bump Notre Dame to 6 or 7.
6. I think Notre Dame's locked in around 6.
I don't know. There was a scenario there, and it's funny because I don't get into this, but for the Notre Dame fans, there's like a routing chart of what you need to happen, which is the best case scenario for them. And I said, their best case scenario, they're in. And they're going to be in at home.
That's right.
I can tell you this, that if it is Notre Dame and Alabama, that would be played Saturday night because that would be a massive ratings game.
Wow.
And if Notre Dame plays anyone other than Alabama, they said that Notre Dame's going to play on Friday night. But Marcus Freeman in his press conference today said whomever they get, they hope he gets a team from the South, and it's supposed to be like 15 degrees and snowy that weekend. So he's welcoming them back.
That makes a difference.
But what we'll do in our next podcast, that once the college football pairings are released, you and I will sit down and say, what do you think the chances are percent-wise of this team winning it all? Like when I said Rich Rodriguez and Jimbo Fisher have a 0. You got that? A 0% chance for either one of them to be. And I couldn't actually say of any of the 12 teams that anybody would have a 0% chance to win. I think everybody has a chance. Some teams better than others.
I want to tell our viewers, though, he's like the weatherman, though. It could be 0% and then it snow.
Well, and like I said, we can always go back and look at this. And if I'm wrong, I'll be the first to say I'm wrong.
Right.
I admit it. But I just don't see it happening. I just don't see it happening.
I don't see it happening.
All right, now we're going to switch gears to the National Football League. And I'll tell you what, Eric, once we get past Thanksgiving, we're coming down the stretch. There's 5 weeks left in the regular season. And I think you got at least 6 teams that have a legit chance to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm going to go in reverse with those teams. I think Buffalo Bills, everybody's high on them. But like you said, there's a big bad wolf still over there. And, they even beat the Chiefs. But until the Chiefs still the Chiefs, and it's going to be tough. But I think the AFC, they have a lot of teams that can
Pittsburgh,
Baltimore,
Buffalo, Kansas City. If the Chargers, I don't think could win the Super Bowl, but they could knock off one of those contenders.
Yeah, you don't want to see the Chargers because defensively, I think they're the best, stats wise and in scoring defense out there.
And that's who the Chiefs have this weekend. And, that's the one thing I saw Patrick Mahomes say that, they're winning all these tight, close games, like how they beat the Raiders on Black Friday. It was maybe kind of flukish at the end.
Yep.
But he said that just shows you that keeps them focused and shows you that you just can't be luck every week. There's got to be something to that they just feel that they're going to win the game.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of it's luck, but a lot of it they make plays too. And I've never seen a team 11 and what are they, 11-1?
Yes, 11-1.
So criticized. Defending Super Bowl
champion two times.
And everybody's like, I think that's the best case scenario for them.
Right.
And you know what? All other teams in the league, they get injury. They get everybody gives them excuses for that is one of the most injured teams out there. Pacheco, they've lost a lot of firepower, which they're starting to get back healthy too.
And I'll say this about the Chiefs. I don't care how bad Patrick Mahomes may play for 3.5 quarters. When it's down to the last 4 minutes of a game, I don't think there's anybody who watches as much NFL as you and I, Eric, would want any other body driving the bus for their team, the quarterback, to come back and win the game.
Driving the bus, flying the plane, doing
whatever. That's my guy right there.
That's my guy.
The one other thing, too, the San Francisco 49ers have been a dominant team for over the last 4 or 5 years, but they've gotten up to the mountain. They've never got to the top of the mountain, and I think I can say they're officially done. McCaffrey's out for the season. They've been banged up. It's just things just not happening for them, and I don't think the 49ers are going to make the playoffs this year.
Well, and the thing is, I'm a hater. I'm a 49ers hater. Nobody wants to talk about all this money they have in all these positions, and I think they peaked. They might be going the other way now.
I think so.
They're going to have to make some tough offseason decisions. I don't think Deebo Samuel's going to be there next year. I mean, they're going to have to make some tough decisions.
And the only thing I'll say with the 49ers over these last 3 or 4 years, I've never seen a team be so banged up. I don't know what it is about their team. And I know every team goes through injuries, but they've had so many key guys been banged up and missed so many games.
Yeah, they have, but that's all part of it. And their depth though, they've been a real deep team, and they've lost a lot of people, but so have a lot of NFL teams.
And the one thing about it, Detroit and Philadelphia right now, I think are the top 2 teams in the NFC. And I don't know that it'll play out that way, but make no mistake, Philadelphia can definitely go into Detroit and win the championship.
I saw a fact on this.
Yeah.
You're talking about the 49ers, the most injured team in the NFL the Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
They have the most people on the IR injured list or something. And I mean, that might catch up with them. A lot of defenders.
Right. Of course, Detroit's got a big game with Green Bay. So we're coming down to the stretch of this, and we've got to talk about our barking dogs.
Yes.
And, our barking dogs through 13 weeks. I am 7-6, and Eric, you are 6-7. So for this week, who do you like as your barking dog?
Hold that up. Hold that up. No, this.
Oh, I got to hold up the...
My barking dog on the road, the Carolina Panthers, plus 14.
Yes.
At Philadelphia. They may go in there and take down the Eagles.
And I'll tell you what, right here, I wrote it down. Ladies and gentlemen, we do not share our picks. I also had the Panthers, and I put the Panthers at 13. I didn't realize they were getting the extra point at 14. I saw it today, Carolina. I would take Carolina plus 13 because I think Philadelphia will win the game, but I think after these couple of big emotional wins that Philadelphia had, they're in for a little letdown spot at home. I think they win, but I don't think they cover.
People don't understand. We did not discuss.
No, we didn't discuss this at all.
Don't discuss it at all. That's one of the rules of this. And that's funny. This is only the second time.
Yeah, second time. But I'll tell you what, I had a second pick, and I shared that with you before we started taping. So I'm going to go ahead and share my pick because Eric did not share his second pick with me. But I like the Dallas Cowboys. I can't see how Cincinnati is favored because I know Dallas has not played well at home, and they beat the Giants up. They got that win over Washington Commanders. They beat Dallas. Dallas got a little bit something going, but I just don't think Cincinnati is very good, and I think Dallas will win the game straight up.
And right on cue, I'm going to give a bonus. We got the barking dog here, right? And I'm going to go, this is going to make you laugh. I got to go with the Jets again.
Yeah.
It's going to have to happen for me one time. They did everything they could
to lose last
week.
Seattle.
So my bonus pick, the New York Jets.
And the Jets are on the road at Miami. And Miami, to keep their playoff hopes alive, they need to win. Of course, the Jets in a little bit of disarray. They got to find a new coach as well.
Yeah, they do. But you know how Miami is. You go down in the warmth of the, little warm. They flying from New York. Then I think the Jets will be lubed up and ready to go.
All right, before we say our final goodbyes, real quickly, you got anything to add for college basketball? I know it's just getting going. Most teams have played less than 10 games, or maybe right at 10 games. Anything so far in the first, first 3 weeks of the season jumped out at you?
That the SEC is really good.
Yeah, Alabama's really good. You saw that.
Alabama, but not only Alabama, they played Auburn.
Even though Duke beat Auburn, Auburn's really good.
The only
too.
loss of the SEC challenge has been Kentucky lost to Clemson.
Yeah,
I mean, to sweep the ACC. Oh no, Duke finally got a win last night. Beat Auburn last night. But that being said, I'm pleased with the West Virginia Mountaineers. You touched on them earlier. No one thought they had a shot to win any of those games probably when they went to Atlantis, Battle for Atlantis.
Down in the Bahamas, yes.
And that is a gritty team, well coached, and I look forward. They're going to have some ups and downs, but I really think they're going to battle and play hard. They shoot the ball decent, and they run their sets. And I really like what I saw out of them.
And you know what I think about that, Eric? They played 3 days in a row and all went to overtime.
All overtime.
All 3 games went to overtime.
And they look like they were in shape.
And I will say this. The 2 games that they won, I thought that would be the 2 that they lost. The one that they lost, I thought would be the game that they'd win.
That's right, the Louisville game. That's correct. They should have won.
Well, but anyway, and after they lost to Pitt, which I didn't see, but I know they got beat by Pitt pretty good. I just didn't know, and I still don't know until you maybe really get in conference play. But I do know this Kansas and Houston are really good.
Yeah, Kansas and Houston, really good. But that's what you expect out of Kansas. They just reload. Houston's going to play. They're going to play defense the whole game and try to wear you down. But top to bottom right now, even with the loss last night, I like that Auburn team.
Yeah, Auburn's really good.
Auburn's real. They're old too. They have
very experienced team.
3 guys that's been there 5-6 years.
Yeah. Well, one final thing before we go, and I said this was our last segment. I actually got one other thing, and of course the high school basketball season's coming up. And Eric, you and I will be continuing to broadcast games on video productions. We'll be carrying a lot of all the home games of the Beckley boys and girls teams, Shady boys teams. We'll have a lot of Raleigh County games, middle school games. We have the little general event, the Battle for the Armory coming up. And also coming up in a future broadcast, we'll have Mike Green from New River Community and Technical College that's a great, wonderful event that they have at the 1st of January. That runs January 6th through January 11th. We'll have Mike Green here. We'll talk about all the teams. And, as high school football winds down, high school girls and boys basketball starting up.
Yeah, and I think all the local teams, even down in Wyoming County with West Side and Wyoming East. I think all these teams are going to be a lot better this year. Good competition. I'm looking forward to get basketball tipped off.
All right, we got to clean up our final business. We have to do what with the podcast?
Like, share, and subscribe at Warden Broadcast Network on YouTube.
And we appreciate our sponsors, Modley's Plumbing and Heating, 304-253-HELP. You never know when you need a plumber till you need a plumber. Never know when you need your heat adjusted or fixed till you do it. Modley's, it's easy to remember. It's 304-253-HELP. Also by Massey Power Sports. Get a little growl for the Panthers. And that's our barking dog for this week, the Carolina Panthers. And, of course, they got great deals on those side-by-sides. 0% financing. And by Window World of Beckley, you get a hold of Leanna Burdett at Window World of Beckley, and they'll fix you right up. So this has been, you may not agree with this,
but
I'm Maris Lowery.
And I'm Eric Thomas.
So long, everybody.